As a character who flits from doing good to indiscriminately murdering at the drop of a hat, it's easy to see how Black Widow could have done a huge amount of terrible things in her time in comics. Especially since she first appeared in the Ultimate Marvel Team-Up number 14 as a supervillain and not a hero. While the vast majority of this can be put down to the brainwashing of her former KGB trainers and captors, not all of Natasha's worst actions take place in her days as an enemy of the Avengers. Indeed, Black Widow has actually been responsible for a whole host of awful antics while entirely free of the chains of her old life. Unfortunately, many of Nat's worst moments occur when she's arguably trying to do good things, as a lifetime of being a hardcore assassin has left her willing to do literally anything to get the end result she wants, which leaves her slaughtering and maiming completely innocent folks for the greater good. With a rap sheet that includes fratricide, cannibalism, and almost ending the world, it's kind of a surprise that Natasha Romanoff is still considered a hero in the first place. So, I'm Ewan, this is What Culture Comics, and here are the 10 worst things Black Widow has ever done. Number 10. Killing her oldest friend. Black Widow Volume 5, number 20. As an assassin trained from childhood to love nobody and kill everyone, it's safe to say that the Black Widow was somewhat lacking in the friend department for most of her life. There was one exception to this rule, however, that of Marina, a girl who Natasha trained alongside in the Red Room and with whom she formed a firm friendship. So, obviously, the end of the 5th volume of Black Widow sees Natasha being forced to kill Marina, as her superiors felt that the woman had grown too fond of her undercover life in Cuba, understandable, and thus would betray them. Maybe not as understandable. Despite knowing that it would be denying her friend a long-deserved chance at happiness, she shoots her in the shower, with an expression that suggests she also knows that it was a terrible thing to have done. Just to emphasize that this isn't a heroic move, she then kills the cat, despite the fact that it notably lacks the vocal faculties required to grasp on the assassin. I don't know, maybe she watched Turner and Hooch. The dog was a witness to a crime. God, people. Number 9. Trying to kill Captain America. Secret Empire, number 7. While Black Widow is definitely a hero for the cause of Secret Empire, it is also worth remembering she doesn't have an entirely perfect run from a moral perspective, as she does try and straight up murder Captain America within the comic. Now, in any other circumstance, killing Cap would be the worst thing ever, but he is a huge Nazi supervillain in Secret Empire, and Nat is mostly trying to kill him so that Miles Morales doesn't. You know, because who wants the cheerful young Spider-Man to become a killer so early on in his life? Not me. However, it's also worth mentioning that kidnapping Steve would have been just as useful, and also would have given them the time to find a way to turn Captain America back to normal, instead of just murdering him because he'd gotten brainwashed by the Cosmic Cube. In short, it's the wrong thing done for the right reasons, leaving it one of the sketchier plans Black Widow has ever tried to execute, and doubly so, given she ends up with a broken neck as a result. Number 8. Beating up Spider-Man. The Amazing Spider-Man, number 86. The Amazing Spider-Man number 86 is well worth a read, if only because it shows Black Widow absolutely trouncing an ill and thoroughly confused Peter Parker. Now, in most scenarios, I imagine Peter Parker would love being beaten up by a ludicrously strong redhead, but he was down with the flu. In this case, it leaves Natasha looking like she started a needless fight, because she very much has. The fact she also doesn't pick up on the fact that he is ill and thus she isn't getting a proper fight out of him is also pretty dire, as she's beating up a guy she could just defeat by just withholding Lemsip. Why exactly Spider-Man was a proverbial punching bag for much of the 80s is unknown, but Black Widow takes this a step further by deciding to pick on him for the sheer joy of it. Number 7. Messing with Hawkeye and Winter Soldier as a clone. Tales of Suspense number 100. While, of course, the Black Widow that we see in the Tales of Suspense story is a clone, her actions are still the actions of Natasha Romanoff, even if it isn't the original version of her. As such, the stuff that Nat does in the Tales of Suspense series is well worth talking about, because it's undeniably awful. Not only does Black Widow never reveal that she's alive-ish to people who care deeply for her, like her current and former romantic partners, but she leaves just enough clues that the pair are naturally inclined to try and find her. Instead of a heartful reunion, Black Widow does as she's wont to, and blows them up instead, stealing the Winter Soldier's arm and Hawkeye's broken bow. While it's revealed that she did all of this to try and stop the Red Room for good by infiltrating them, which is heroic, she does so in such a needlessly troublesome way that it just comes off as callous and cruel, especially since the comic ends with her inviting Bucky to join her anyway, meaning she didn't need to hide from him in the first place. Number 6. Killing her own brother. Shadows and Light, number 1. It's easy to forget about Black Widow's story in the Shadows and Light series, as it's only a meager 16 pages in total. For anyone desperate to know everything about her though, it's crucial, as within these 16 pages we learn an awful lot about one of the more immoral versions of the assassin's backstory. When Black Widow faces off against a villain named the Vindicator, with a K, because it's meant to be cool, I guess, she is surprised to find that the criminal is actually her brother, who she'd assumed had died in the fire that killed the rest of her family. While this could be put down to simple negligence, she doesn't really seem to care that he's alive anyway, despite the fact that her brother would be her only remaining family, and despite the fact that they've clearly turned to a life of crime as a result of their tragic lives. Widow feels so little for her estranged family that she lets the Vindicator with a K die, dropping him from the top of a water tower to his demise. It's a bad family reunion, and a worse move for a supposed superhero. But you know what isn't a bad move? Subscribing and hitting the notification bell. Hey, look at how seamless I am. Seriously though, please go do that if you can. No joke, it helps us out massively. Also, we're cool, right? Good, I thought so. Number 5. Killing Jarvis, Ultimates 2, number 9. Be he a snarky butler or an elaborate AI system, Jarvis is a beloved entity in most Marvel enterprises. Which is why Black Widow established herself as a villain in the Ultimate series by planting a bullet straight into his skull, killing him instantly. Sidebar, this is also the comic where the Ultimates celebrate Nat's life by watching a sex tape of her and Tony Stark, just in case you were under any illusion that Jeff Loeb can still be left to his own devices. Now, all of this would have been bad enough had she merely snuck into Tony Stark's mansion to murder the man, but it's actually far, far worse. As a spy, Natasha had snuck her way into Iron Man's affections, even agreeing to get engaged to the superhero. This is all a ploy to gain the Avengers' secret, however, and thus when Natasha decides it's time she left, she does so in usual dramatic fashion, stopping to kill Jarvis as he brings the couple their breakfast in bed. Being evil is one thing, but shooting a man who's literally bringing you some eggs and OJ is much, much worse. Number 4. Almost ending the world, Daredevil number 84. Without a shadow of a doubt, Daredevil number 84 is one of the weirdest experiences any Daredevil fan can face, and we've seen that man nearly kill a baby because he thought it was the Antichrist. Not only are the sci-fi elements that run throughout weird to have in a series about Daredevil, but the actual plot only serves to make everything feel even more jarring. To put a complicated plot as simply as is possible, Daredevil number 84 covers the story of a robotic assassin from the future who is sent to kill Black Widow and the Man Without Fear, because their lives are somehow linked to the end of the world. Though it's ambiguous towards the end of the comic whether this is in fact true, all signs point to it actually at the time being a legitimate part of the canon, meaning that the pair were in some way responsible for the destruction of all life on Earth until the assassin changed the timeline, which is neatly covered over forever afterwards, despite being a pretty huge deal. Also, another sidebar, Daredevil and Black Widow's relationship was weird. Like, look at him, being all misogynisty. Cut that out, Matthew. Cut it out right now. Number 3. Trying to destroy the Avengers, Avengers number 29. Were Natasha not under some severe mind control by her old bosses for the majority of her attempt to destroy the Avengers, it would definitely be the top of the list, because it's some classic supervillain shenanigans. As it stands, it's still pretty bad, as Black Widow kidnaps the Scarlet Witch, almost gets Hawkeye killed, and fails to stop and try to work out exactly why she suddenly despises the superhero team, despite the fact that this clearly isn't something the brainwashing prevents. While it's far worse when the assassin does terrible deeds with a clear head, coming narrowly close to destroying the main superhero team in the world is still a pretty awful thing to do, even if it's not totally her fault in the first place. Number 2. Eating Spider-Man. Just eating him. What If number 34. While it's admittedly a single panel gag in the ever weird and wild What If series, it still is worth mentioning that, in some strange Marvel alternate universe, the Black Widow has eaten Peter Parker after marrying him. You get it? Like a real Black Widow. Either way, this universe is equally hilarious and terrifying, and a full spin-off based around it might be worth a shot should Marvel want to produce an extra horror comic this year. And number 1. Killing Hawkeye's entire family, The Ultimates 2, number 7. While killing Jarvis in The Ultimates was bad enough, that moment is actually not the definitive worst deed that Black Widow undertakes in the sordid Ultimate series. No, that award instead goes to the scene wherein she kills all of Hawkeye's family, presumably in order to take his drive to fight back when she and her Russian teammates kidnap him for interrogation. Although it's an awful scene, it's also one that's incredibly well thought out, as we see all this before it's revealed that Black Widow is a traitor to the Avengers, only showing the gun and dialogue of this mysterious rogue operative. Naturally, these misdeeds led to Natasha's own death, as after Hawkeye escapes capture and helps the Avengers save the world, the next thing on his agenda is hunting down and killing her in revenge, which she accomplishes in the final issue of the series, leading to a completely surreal funeral in Ultimates 3. With the sex tape at the funeral. At the very least, it's definitely not the most uncomfortable thing about Jeff Loeb's Ultimates. Oh god, there's Blob again. No, not again.
not the Blob.
And that, dear viewer, was our list. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and also to hit the notification bell, as it really does help us out in the long run. You can find more news, articles, and lists like this every day at whatculture.com/comics. More of me on Twitter at YounRunesThings, and more of your favorite super themed stories within the walls of your local comic book store.